Ranger Week in the Paper Crafters Library blog, and we'll be focusing on Tim Holt's distress stains. Every day this week we'll share a different technique using the stains, and each day we'll also be giving away a set of 12 distress stains compliments of Ranger. We'll share details on how to enter at the end of this video. In today's video, we're going to show you a watercolor stamping with distress stains technique, which was used to create the background of this card.
For this technique, you can use any type of porous surface, and each one will give you a different effect. The basic technique is going to be the same no matter which surface you use. For this demonstration, I'm going to be showing you using watercolor paper. Afterwards, I'm going to show you a few of the samples of how it looks on different types of paper. So to begin with, we're going to be taking our stamp, and I've chosen a really nice big background stamp over here, which will allow me a lot of room to kind of play with my colors. The next thing I'm going to do is choose some distress colors. I'm going with a little bit of wild honey and some broken china. The next step is to start tapping on the colors. Now you're going to want to use the lighter colors first and then the darker ones. This way, if you do have any contact, it's easier to get the lighter color off the darker as opposed to the other way around. So just make sure that it's been started by pushing down on the top and then just rub it over randomly on your image. Now it's going to look pretty messy to begin with, but you're going to see how it turns out really beautiful. Now I'll have to admit that despite the fact that you can do this on a variety of different surfaces, my favorite is still the watercolor paper. All of them though give you a very unique and fun look. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with a little bit of my broken china, and I'm going to go over those areas which I haven't really touched with my wild honey. I'm just kind of tapping it onto those areas. Now sometimes it's going to have a little bit of contact, but that's all right. I want it to have a little bit of blending. And that's why it's kind of important when you're doing this technique to choose colors that are actually going to blend well together. If you go choosing complementaries, you're going to end up having mud. So if you go with a really strong orange and deep blue, you can expect brown where it mixes. A little bit over there, a little bit here. Okay, so we've basically gone over the whole stamped area with our stain. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to spritz it a couple times with a nice fine mist of water. Probably do it 2 or 3 times to get the desired effect. And 1 for good measure. Then I'm going to take my paper, and which is in this case the watercolor paper, and I'm going to lay it on top gently. I don't want it to shift around or I'm going to end up with smears as opposed to a nice image. And then just going to carefully press down so that it covers every surface evenly. Okay. And then we're going to lift up to reveal the image. And you can see how it gives me just this beautiful, beautiful watercolored look. So now we're just going to let this dry, and then we're going to show you how to do this with a little bit of an alteration in what we use to mist. We're going to mist this next one with the Perfect Pearls mist so that we get a hint of shimmer in our design. Okay, so now we're ready to step it up a little bit. My other piece is dry and I'm ready to move on to my next piece of paper. I'm still using the watercolor paper because I like the effect that it gives for me. Now I'm going to go over and do the same thing. I'm going to take my distress stain, I'm going to take my broken china and my wild honey, just so that you can at least see comparatively how it looks with the same colors. It's a little easier to kind of compare. And I'm just going to go over and I'm going to put a nice good layer of my wild honey. Now remember, you want to, in between each of your applications, you want to make sure your stamp is nice and clean. Otherwise it's going to have really muddy looking images. You're not going to get that nice distinction between the yellow, the blue, and then where it melts into green. It's just going to become muck. So really make sure that you take a wipe and clean your stamp off in between all of each time you do this in all the applications. Okay, so I have a good amount of wild honey here. I wanted it a little stronger on the wild honey side this time. And then I'm going to take some of my broken china and carefully go over all those areas where I didn't go with the wild honey. Now I know it looks like I'm not really being careful, but I actually am trying to avoid having contact with the wild honey. It will blend on its own once I actually add some of the liquid, the mist, of either water or pearl. And I am actually trying to take some care, but I will probably go and wipe this down on a piece of paper when I'm done. Okay, so we're just going over those areas. Okay, and maybe just a little more around here. Okay, so we have that over there. And now this time, instead of wetting it down with my water mist, which I had over here, I'm going to use some Perfect Pearls. Now, the Perfect Pearls themselves do not have color. It's simply the mica inside of it, which is lending it that color. So you can go with either a nice pearly kind of white, or you can go with a gold, just to add that hint of shimmer. So I'm going to use a little bit of the white this time, and just like I would with the water, I'm going to spritz it 2 or 3 times. Okay, a little strong on the first one. I should not have been quite so close, but now I'm going to take this and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to lay it down and press. Be careful not to get your thumb there and smear in the back. It's not going to do any damage, but you may not want it on your fingers. And just try and get all those areas. And then carefully lift up. Okay, so you may not see it right here in the camera, but this has a really nice shimmer. It's now Shimmer Distress Stain, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to let this one dry, and then we can take a look at some of the samples. So I wanted to show you a few samples of how this technique looks on different papers. So over here I have 4 different types of paper. I have some sticky back canvas, and you can see how it gives you kind of a rough textured look to this technique. Okay, that's kind of really neat looking. Okay, this one over here is some of your basil white cardstock. It gives you a nice rich color. It has crisp lines, and it actually gives it an interesting texture. Obviously you can't tell in the video, but to my hand you can feel the difference where the paper's been wet and then dried, and it has just a slightly rougher feel to it. Also, again, it has that nice intensity of the color, which Distress inks and stains and all the product line is known for. Okay, over here we have it stamped on a manila paper, and it's kind of a bit of a yellowish paper. It's very much softer, so you have a bit fuzzier look to the edges, still rich intensity in the color, and just a really nice look if you're working on tags and stuff. This final one over here was stamped on the Ranger stamping paper, and it gives it kind of a nice whitewash effect. I don't know if you can tell over here, but take a look at the color intensity difference. On the manila paper, it's very intense. This one here is more of that whitewash look. It's softer, very crisp though. It's a bit of a glossy paper, yet the ink still dries perfectly on it. So again, these are just a few different looks of how, you know, it goes on other papers compared to also here the watercolor paper. Once again, my favorite is the watercolor paper just for my own personal preference, but these are some fantastic looks and ways that you can make this technique really versatile for all your stamping. So here's an example of a card that uses this watercolor stamping with Distress Stains technique. I've also incorporated some sponging with Distress inks, and the flower and leaves were colored using the new Ranger Distress markers. A video on how to create this card from start to finish is available to our Paper Crafters Library members. To enter to win this set of 12 Distress Stains, visit the Paper Crafters Library blog and leave a comment in the post you see here. If you are watching this video from somewhere other than our blog, you'll find a direct link to this post in the video description section. While you're there, we invite you to check out the benefits of becoming a Paper Crafter Library member by clicking on the Benefits of Membership link at the top of our blog. All 5 winners will be announced on Monday, April 16th. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you haven't already, be sure to check out some of our other great technique videos using Distress Stains.